Let's call our meeting to order. And thank you all for being here this evening. I'll ask the treasurer to call the roll.
Ms. Adair?
Present.
President Baker?
Present?
Mr. Brown? Here. Vice President Cole?
Present.
Ms. Gibbs?
Here.
Mr. Ragland?
Here.
Ms. Reyes?
How are you?
She is absent for the moment. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to ask Interim Director Smido from the Office of Education to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please be upstanding. Interim Director Smido.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. I just want to remark on something that happened recently. Over the weekend, as you all know, there was another shooting with multiple victims, this time in Odessa. The lives of 7 people were taken, another 25 were wounded by the gunman carrying an AR-style rifle, which is a lightweight military-style automatic weapon, as you know. Students and others across the country last year asked adults to step up and do something to address gun violence. We have to step up and address this issue, as we've said many times at this table. And it's sad and unfortunate that this happens so often that I have a prepared statement that I read every time. And if there's no objection from my colleagues, I'd like to take time for a moment of silence in light of recent violence throughout our country. I'd like to call on all elected officials and community leaders everywhere to stand up to hatred and to engage with one another in pursuit of tolerance and solutions. Hatred is based on fear. Fear is based on ignorance. Another reason why education is so critically important. And as I always say, love is still the strongest force in the world. Let's observe a brief moment of silence. Thank you very much, and especially in light of the fact that a 15-year-old student was killed in that incident and a 17-month-old baby injured in that incident. So just absolutely unacceptable in the greatest country in the world that such things happen. All right, so what I'd like to do now, on a happier note, as many of you know, yesterday was Labor Day, our annual celebration of the greatness of the American worker. The first Labor Day was celebrated on September 5th, 1882 by the Central Labor Union in New York City. President Grover Cleveland signed a bill into law making the first Monday in September each year a national holiday. Yes, Labor Day is 125 years old this year. To all of the dedicated workers in Columbus City Schools, thank you for your tireless efforts and your contribution to the nation, effort that drives the strength, prosperity, and well-being of our great nation. So if you are not just a member of a labor union, but if you're an employee of the district, would you please stand so that we can recognize you for all the hard work that you do all year long? And special kudos to CEA representatives in the back. I see Phil Hayes and John Caniglio. Appreciate you, and every other representative of any of our labor unions or associations. Thank you very much for your leadership. The other celebration, actually, this weekend, Sunday, is National Grandparents' Day. So Marion McQuaid led a campaign to create a day honoring grandparents, and President Jimmy Carter signed a proclamation in 1978 that declared the first Sunday after Labor Day National Grandparents' Day. We know the critically important role that many grandparents play in our students' lives. And so I did not want that day to go unrecognized. And we especially want to honor those grandparents and CCS for being a special part of your grandchild's life and academic success. So if you're a grandparent, don't be embarrassed, because it's a thing to be proud of. If you're a grandparent, stand up so we can recognize you. Thank you very much. Colleagues, I appreciate your indulgence. So let's move on and prepare to review and adopt our agenda. So I'll briefly go through the agenda. After we adopt it, we'll take public comment. We do have a number of speakers who will address us this evening. We will then hear from our direct reports. They'll provide their reports to the board. We will then contemplate our consent agenda, after which we will hear announcements from board members and points of pride. We will then recess into executive session. Having said that, is there a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer?
Ms. Adair? Yes. President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes? Yes. Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. All right, now on to public comment. We do have actually three who have signed up to speak to the board this evening. Each of you will have 4 minutes. I'll call your name, I'll state the topic and the board action requested. I'll ask you to approach the podium at that time. You will see a timer on the screen, and I would ask that you do conclude within your 4-minute timeline. First speaker, Sana Walker. Topic, Youth Academic Retention Achievement Excellence. Board action requested. Consider implementing my program. Ms. Walker, are you with us this evening? I am. Please approach the podium. Welcome. Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to be here. You'll have 4 minutes to address the board.
Okay. Good evening, President Baker,
Good evening.
Vice President Cole, Treasurer Bahork, Internal Auditor Smith, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Talisa Dixon. I want to talk to you about a student who was a Columbus City School student. This student had numerous behavioral incidents. This student was suspended and ultimately expelled from one of your middle schools. But what staff, teachers, and administrators didn't know was that that student's father passed away when they were in middle school, and that her mother was not able to get her the services that she needed because of what she dealt with as far as her abandonment issues and the loss of her father. This student was deemed as a student who was disobedient in the district. However, this student fell between the cracks and ultimately went unseen and unnoticed. However, one day, that student was able to get the strength to get up and walk. And when she walked, after having a child when she was a teenager, she went on to get her bachelor's degree and receive her degree in social work. She then went on to become a school counselor. After that, she continued to walk. She walked into entrepreneurship, and she came up with an amazing program for students, and it worked. That student is me. Hi, my name is Sana Walker, and I am the Chief Executive Officer of Urea Works. So you're thinking, what is Urea? Youth Academic Retention Achievement Excellence. I lead a team of awesome student engagement specialists who specialize in behavior modification with restorative practices and also with the social emotional learning. We also have a K-12 curriculum that I wrote myself. And I wrote it through the challenges that I faced here at Columbus City Schools, the educational knowledge that I gained, and the experience as a school counselor. So I am asking the board today to implement Urea Works into the 2019-2020 school year, because there are some problems. So your students' growth is continual, but behavior modification is not. And so there are no programs with the continuity of support throughout your K-12 program. So that's why district support is needed. Why? Because there's no one-on-one support, there's no connections with students due to the lack of steady stewardship, better known as an ever-guiding hand. So the students now have no understanding of expectations, goal fulfillments, and self-actualizations. However, there is a solution. And with your support, Urea can address all of those issues by achieving positive outputs through improving your attendance rates, your academic success, and by lowering your behavior incidents. And so, these things are achieved by our one-on-one logic model, and what we do is we meet students right where they are, and we're able to find out exactly why truancy is an issue. We devise a plan, and we execute it to improve the attendance rates. And so we have our social-emotional consciousness, which is our classroom observations with the social-emotional learning. And so we're correcting, we're redirecting the disruptive behaviors, but we're also reintegrating and reinforcing the students back into the learning atmosphere. And with our restorative practices, with that curriculum that I developed, we're given the basic life skills needed to keep your students engaged, re-engaged, so that they're getting what they need and so that they're meeting the standards that have been set by the Department of Education. So, insight. Urea Works is a curriculum-based behavioral modification that provides a continuity of support services throughout the whole K through 12 experience. So, our goal is to meet your Tier 2 students and also your at-risk Tier 2 students where they are so that they can share in your district's vision. And so, I am requesting for the Columbus City School Board to go into partnership by providing funding for Urea Works to allow every participant to share in your vision that every student reaches his or her full potential. Thank you, board members, President Baker, for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Wow, that was perfect timing. Thank you. Are there clarifying questions, colleagues, for Ms. Walker? Ms. Vice President?
Have you actually executed YARA somewhere else and had some success with that that's measurable?
An excellent question. Yes, I did, and I did it here at Columbus City Schools. I did it last year at Johnson Park Middle School.
Okay. And have you had the opportunity to share this program with the juvenile courts, family court as well?
I actually wrote a program for them, but I started back here in my stomping grounds because when I was a school counselor, I realized I had so many students who had come in and they were facing issues with the system. So I wanted to kind of start here first, and then once I plant my feet where I started, then I will implement that program. But I have a program for them too.
Thank you so much. Have you had the opportunity, and final, Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
To talk with any of our new amazing staff and, of course, our superintendent?
I've met your superintendent because every time I see her, I'm like, hi, I'm a hugger. But yes, I have spoke with Ms. Ward. I did see Ms. Ward and I did speak with her.
Thank you. Thank you.
Other clarifying questions, Mr. Ragland?
Sir, my question is for the administration. When we have 5 members of our community that come before us with proposals like this, what is the best way to work with you? I know Ms. Walker came down to the board today, but we also have other members of the public that come to us with these types of proposals. I'm sure that there are others that have all types of partnerships that they would like to propose to the district. Dr. Dixon, what is the best way for the public at large to get in contact with you when they have these types of ideas and things that could be groundbreaking for the district?
So first, that's a great question. And what we're doing, we are now establishing that, because what we don't want is that people, even though they have wonderful ideas, we want to make sure that we have a vetting process in place to make sure that those ideas align with the goals that we have before us, and to make sure that the curriculum is evidence-based curriculum, and that we've seen some results in other places, especially of similar demographics as our district. So what we are establishing now is through the Office of Engagement and the Office of Curriculum. So we're saying, here's a curriculum that we may want, but here's the partners who want to partner with our organization. And then what that department would do to see where that work aligns and to see if we have anything already in place. Because many times we have programs in place that may not be used, may not have been implemented with fidelity. So we're not sure in some areas, but there may be some areas that we could use a partnership organization. And then from there, we have a process depending on the cost of that particular partnership. Then we have some board policies that we have to follow. So for example, if certain things are over a certain amount that has to be boarded, there may have to be some bidding processes, depending on if there's of several organizations for a certain cost. So through the Office of Engagement will be the first stop, and that is Alicia Gillison. Alicia, if you can raise your hand, please. Thank you. It would start with her, but I'm glad you met with Cheryl Ward because this is in that department. I know you've had a meeting with her. So it would start there, and then her office would determine if it aligns with some of the work. And then that would go to the curriculum office, and that's Dr. Tracy Ocasio, and Dr. Ocasio is back there. Because we want to make sure that the programs, that they fit in our organization. We know that the need is there for this program and various programs. We have people in this community that are smart, intelligent, and have some businesses that they want implemented with our kids, but we want to do right by those partners too, to make sure that those programs and those organizations fit with what we are right now. Does that help?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other clarifying questions, colleagues? All right, so Superintendent, you have indicated to Ms. Walker that she should meet with Ms. Gillison, and
Yes, she's met with Ms. Ward, so I'm sure that Ms. Ward would probably meet with Alicia. Thank you, there's Cheryl in the back. And then talk next steps. And then we have a protocol too, because we want to make sure that it's not you have a conversation and nothing happens. And so Ms. Gillison's office is creating a letter that kind of states, this is where we are at this point, or some reasons that we can't partner at this time. All right? But thank you.
very good. Thank you, Ms. Walker. Thank you. All right, our next speaker is, actually 3 speakers have signed up together. Derek Pryor, Andy Bittner, and Thomas Means. Topic, Clean Energy Board Action Requested. Listen to our proposal to save Columbus City Schools $52 million. Well, I'm intrigued. Gentlemen, come on up to the podium. And I understand that you may have a PowerPoint presentation for us as opposed to a handout, which the last speaker had. So do we have that?
That was accurate up until technical difficulties.
Ah.
So I will be speaking with you this evening.
Very well. All right. You have 4 minutes. Please begin.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Baker, President Baker, Vice President Cole, Treasurer Bohoric, Internal Auditor Smith, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Talisa Dixon. We're guaranteed clean energy, and we've come to you in a time of clean energy. The timing is perfect. We are an energy advisory firm. In the past, energy efficiency projects and energy generation projects have been something that people have always wanted to do. It seems to make sense. Sustainability seems right, but people have not been able to embrace it because of several reasons, mostly financial. Our firm specializes in identifying those financial wherewithals that can be broken down. And our specialty happens to be with municipalities and with school districts. And the timing is literally perfect right now in today's business climate. Energy efficiency and energy projects have dramatically dropped in costs. The companies that are local to Columbus have been thriving. Their costs and their employment is significantly down, as well as there are significant incentive programs that are driving millions and millions and millions of dollars, not only in creative funding for rebates, for grants, but also in being able to pay for these projects with $0 out of pocket for the district. And our firm specializes in being able to make these impacts. We've made these impacts. We're from Columbus, but we've made these impacts also all across the state, several different municipalities, most notably and most recently, Friday night up in Youngstown, Liberty School District, was able to not only take the incentive programs and put over $2.1 million in capital into their programs in their schools, which completely renovated their elementary schools, their middle school, and high school, but it also built them a brand new football stadium. And that football stadium had their largest attendance in 20 years. Their band had a $13,000 event. It was the largest band event that they'd ever had. It was all paid for from clean energy, not paid for through tax money, not paid for out of the budgets of the school system, and they were able to address $2.1 million worth of items that were sitting on their budget that they were trying to address, but with cuts and other things that school systems are used to, didn't have the creative abilities to be able to address. Those were all handled and paid for through our program. We've done this in cities. We've done this in school systems. We're now doing this across the entire country. We're founded here in Columbus, Ohio. We want to be able to have the opportunity to share a strategic system with you that enables you to address these opportunities, enable you to address these using local programs, local people, using locally economic disadvantaged programs, using local entrepreneurs, and do it all in a way that at the end of the day, from our early calculations, looked like it would be about a $52 million impact to the school's budget based off of our most conservative estimates. We have literally tens of millions of dollars set up behind us, ready to be invested into the programs that I speak of, and we'd simply like to have the opportunity to share those with you guys in the correct format.
Well, thank you. Your timing was almost perfect as well. We appreciate you keeping it at 4 minutes. Colleagues, are there clarifying questions that you may have for these speakers? Ms. Gibbs?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Just as a clarification of protocol, this too would go to the superintendent's office and you would direct it to the partnerships and someone to connect them with?
Well, this one, no, not necessarily.
No?
The other ones were more the academic, academic programming. This one I would hand off to my colleagues, to Stan Bohoric, and even in the business office to Maurice Odom or Annette. Because this is not an academic program. It can be used, I've seen some programs that have some academic emphasis and some programs for students to have an understanding if the organization will entirely focus on clean energy. But I would hand this off to the business side for some more, and I would suggest, have we done a needs assessment of our organization? Because I think you can focus on something, but what's the assessment of our organization, then how we move forward together. So that would be my first thing. But I would defer to Stan and Maurice in that department. And we work collaboratively.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Board Member Ragland?
With the financial impact of what's being discussed, would this be appropriate to come before the Finance Committee? I'm asking either the Treasurer or Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ragland, for that question. I might ask, Mr. Treasurer, have you met with or spoken with the speakers?
I have.
Okay, thank you. And so I'll leave it to you then, and perhaps the FAC Chair, to have an ongoing or an additional discussion with them if you think that's appropriate, subsequent to this meeting?
It's a very operational question.
Okay.
We have an energy department, we have a business, we've got everybody in Maurice's and Annette's area. So it's, the financial side of it is a mechanism, but the actual, what you do is operational. So I don't speak to operational. I don't decide whether we put in LED lights or replace windows. If somebody wants to talk about financing, we could talk for days about that if you'd like. But
Right.
so I think it's a very operational question first, not a financing
That's fair.
issue first.
That's a fair point.
Even though there are financial implications there, you have to make sure that we can do it on all of that, so.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. I appreciate that. I just wanted to ask you, because I knew you had had a conversation with the speakers. Superintendent?
I was just going to say, I think to his point, again, it goes back to an assessment of the district first to see if there's going to be a financial savings. Then it goes back to stay in shop. So that's where if it's $52 million that we can save, as they stated, then how do we know that? And have we assessed our organization to see what that savings is going to be? And then how do we build our organization to, build new behaviors that have to occur in our organization to see those savings be realized, right? So there's something.
The process.
Correct, right. And then, based on an assessment, we see what behaviors we have to change, if that amount exceeds or below that, the amount that you're proposing, and then it would go back into the finance shop, and then the organization can say, this is something that we want to do based on this partnership. Is that right? That's how I remember it.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. Board member, thank you. Board member Gibbs?
Yes, thank you for that. Because I just wanted to make sure your proposal and what we're hearing is going to the right place, so we don't drop the ball. Our protocols after speakers come, we follow up on, is it 5 business days? That's the normal protocol. So I just want to make sure that you're directed to the right person so that when they do it, they'll report back to us as a board and we'll be informed of the progress, or just to make sure someone answered your concern. We thank you for coming down to the board, but I just want to make sure as we're navigating a new team that someone has ownership of the follow-up to you. And that was my question to you, Board President.
Thank you, Ms.
for the
Gibbs. And so,
clarification.
Madam Superintendent, would you suggest then a conversation with Ms. Morud?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I will ask the 3 of you speakers to make sure that you make contact with, this is Annette Morud right here, and have a follow-up conversation with her. Thank you very much for being here this evening.
Thank you to the board.
Thank you. All right. Our next speaker is Maria Kane Jeffers. Topic, transferring my daughter from an alternative school to her home school. Board action requested. Listen and explain why the transfer was denied and transfer her to her home school as requested. Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to be here. Looks like you're coming from work. We appreciate it.
Exactly. Good evening, President Baker, Vice President Cole, Treasurer Bahorek, Internal Auditor Smith, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Talisa Dixon. I am here as a concerned parent. My child is a senior. She's only taking 2 courses at Columbus City Schools and doing the rest at Columbus State. I don't know, I'm supposed to say that. Our situation has changed in the last year. My father has passed. My daughter and I have moved in with my mother, who is right around the corner from her home school. And I applied for her to get a transfer ASAP because her grades have dropped since my father passed, and we need to get on top of this. I requested it. They said no. I want to know why. And time is of the essence. I called, asked for an appeal. Something was going on. Why? I work out of town. I don't have time for this. I need this done now. I'm a concerned parent, and I don't know what else to do. I work online. I can't take phone calls and make phone calls and sit down and wait and all that garbage. Can't do it, won't do it. That's why I'm here. So I need to know from you, what is the proper protocol? I called, they called me back, said no. I requested an appeal and a meeting, anything, so I can schedule the necessary time. Never heard back. Holiday, school's been in how long? We missing out. She's going to school at her home school, at the alternative school, but now we're gonna be behind the 8 ball even more. I have a problem with that, and y'all need to fix it. I spoke with Mr. Johnson. He told me I would get a phone call by 4, but I wanted to speak to you today so you can address it and get back with me. I got 2 minutes. Can you help me?
Madam Superintendent?
Dr. Stanford will work with you on that.
How long is this gonna take?
He's right here. You can just
Okay.
go out, step out, and he will.
So you're gonna just say yes, because my mother needs care and my daughter is intricate in that. I don't have time for this.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
That is our final speaker this evening. Thank you very much to all of you who took the time to come down to address the board this evening. No, we don't do that anymore. We took that out. All right, let's move on then to direct reports. And Madam Superintendent, are you prepared to present your report to the board?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we're in week 3. We're now in week 3 of the school year. We opened the year on Thursday, August 22nd, with clap-ins in most of our schools across the district. We had many community partners and business and civic leaders at our school buildings that first day to welcome our students back to class and show their support for our schools. I was able to make it to 3 schools on the first day of school alongside President Baker and Mayor Ginther, and I visited 4 schools the following day. On Thursday, I started at the Freebus bus compound early that morning to send off a number of our buses. Also went to Lyndon McKinley STEM and East Linden for student clap-ins. Finally, I toured Salem Elementary, which now has building-wide air conditioning for the first time since the building was constructed in 1962. On Friday, I served breakfast to students at Burroughs Elementary. I joined City Council Pro Tem Elizabeth Brown at the Columbus City Preparatory School for Girls to announce our newest partnership. We are partnering with the city to provide free menstrual products in the bathrooms at the school. If the pilot is successful, this program could expand to other middle schools next year. I also visited Ridgewood Middle School and talked with 4 student leaders there. I was able to see the new security vestibule that was installed at the main doors. And finally, I took a trip down memory lane and toured the old Brookhaven High School building, which now houses Columbus North International School and Columbus Global Academy. Earlier today, I had the opportunity to visit students and staff at Arts Impact School and Windsor STEM Academy alongside the State Superintendent Paulo De Maria. Vice President Cole and Area Superintendent Luther Johnson joined me for these visits. So convocation. So prior to the first day of classes, many of you were able to join me at our convocation event at the Civic Center. We welcomed nearly our entire staff of more than 9,000 people that morning. It was an awesome event and an energizing way to start the school year. If you were able to attend convocation, you heard me discuss the priorities that I have set forth this year, and I would like to take a few minutes tonight to review these priorities and update you on some of the most recent work happening within each of the 4 strategic goals. As you may know, we will have a one-year focus because of one of our main priorities will be engaged in a consultant to guide us through an education and visioning exercise and a strategic planning process that will help shape our district's near and long-term plans. So our mission statement will remain the same. Each student is highly educated, prepared for leadership and service, and empowered for success as a citizen in a global community. Our goal 1, we will focus on academic performance. Each of our students reaches full potential and graduates prepared to attend college, serve in the military, start a business, or enter the workforce. In terms of improving student outcomes, we would need to create a renewed focus on literacy, numeracy, especially in early childhood and the younger grades. We will also need to focus on improving our graduation rate. We would need to ensure that the young adults who leave our schools do so prepared to succeed no matter the route they choose to pursue. In order to improve academic outcomes for this school year, that will be our focus, making gains in literacy, numeracy, and graduation rates. As I've mentioned previously, one of the key drivers behind these efforts is with our academic structure. I have reorganized our schools into 6 regions, each of which are led by area superintendent. This in no way means that we want to have 6 mini school districts. We need to establish the CCS way no matter which school or region a student attends. We want to set all regions up for success and be equitable in education opportunity and delivery. Each region would have a designated staff supports in key areas, and our area superintendents would be empowered to guide and direct these supports to schools in ways that meaningfully address concerns and amplify their strengths. So you see here in this first region, Region 1 is led by Scott Nelson. Region 2 is Corey Grubbs. Region 3, Dr. Sandy Womack Jr. Region 4, Dr. Keith Harris. Region 5, Diane Agnes. And Region 6, Luther Johnson. So these are the people that if you have any question or concerns, you will reach out to these area superintendents who are leading these regions. So goal 2, centers on culture and climate. Our district creates safe, student-centered, innovative learning environments. We want to strengthen our safety and security measures across the district through strategic staffing, training, and analysis. I'm sure that many of you have heard the news that we hired additional 31 safety and security officers this year. This would certainly be a welcome addition to the schools across the district, but we cannot just add more safety personnel. These additions must be caring personnel as well. And we need to make sure that these people build relationships with our students while at the same time ensure that our buildings are safe and secure. We also want to create warm and welcoming environments in all of our buildings with a renewed focus on customer service. Culture means everything. It is important that our environments and our buildings reflect a student-centered and family-centered focus. Everyone should feel welcome when they walk through our doors. I recently met with the city directors of public safety, Ned Pettis, and Assistant Director Robert Stewart. Director Pettis and I discussed their Teen and Police Service Academy, or TAPS program. TAPS is a 10-week program designed to reduce social distance between police and teens. It pairs police mentors with teens in school settings. Classes are held weekly and cover topics ranging from gang violence and bullying to goal setting and drug prevention. TAPS is held at Columbus Afrocentric Early College and Wedgwood Middle School. This program is locally funded by the Franklin County Courts of Common Pleas, Juvenile and Domestic Division, and supported by the Columbus Department of Public Safety, the Columbus Division of Police, Franklin University, and of course, Columbus City Schools. Goal 3 is focused on talent management. Our district recruits, develops, and retains world-class educators and staff. Our human resources team will develop a recruitment plan that allows our district to attract talented and highly qualified teachers and staff. Our students deserve highly qualified and dynamic educators in their classrooms. We realize we're in a competitive market with so many school districts across Central Ohio. What we can do to attract the best teachers, the best administrators, and the best staff to our schools. More importantly, how do we train and ultimately retain those teachers and staff? So our partnership with Ohio State to create a pipeline of talented teachers and administrators. So that is going to be one of the projects that I work on as a superintendent in residence. So goal 4 centers on accountability and engagement. Our district is accountable to our communities and stakeholders, and confidence in our district and schools is maintained through strategic, responsible, and transparent leadership. We want to be intentional in our stakeholder engagement, which most importantly includes our families. They want and need to be part of this work. We must create a culture where our families are heard and they feel welcome and engaged. Our goal is to empower our families and give them the tools and to support their students' path to success. So last Wednesday, our new Department of Engagement hosted several dozens of our parents for a big table conversation on family engagement. Thank you to President Baker, Vice President Cole, and board members Gibbs and Ragland for joining in on those conversations. The Big Table is an initiative of the Columbus Foundation, which sponsors more than 100 conversations, both large and small, across Central Ohio. We had more than 50 people join our big table, which explored ways to better engage our parents and families and to identify barriers to engagement. There were lots of ideas shared on how we can make our schools more warm and welcoming environments to families. And I think you will see some action by our new engagement team, which is led by our Chief of Engagement, Alicia Gillison, and those ideas in the weeks to come. So I conclude by saying, again, these are the priorities that would be at the heart of our work this school year. This would be a heavy lift to accomplish this. But we're excited. We know that we need each and every person in this district pulling in the same direction in order to be successful. So I look forward to lifting these priorities and also reporting about our progress and accomplishments throughout the school year. So each one of my superintendent's reports moving forward would be around those 4 priorities. So you will hear something every month.
Thank you very much, Madam Superintendent. Colleagues, any questions for the superintendent on her report? Thank you very much. We appreciate the thorough report and the update. All right, let's move on then to our internal auditor. Madam Internal Auditor, have you a report for the board this evening?
Thank you, President Baker. Yes, I do. First, I want to thank Kevin O'Connor, Vice President Cole, for running audit and accountability during my absence. I really appreciate you guys doing that for me. So my report will be brief because I was not there, but I did get the highlights. So at the August 29th, 2019 Audit and Accountability meeting, the committee voted to release 2 of the 3 reports presented. The use of district facilities follow-up report contained an update on management's corrective action plans for the recommendations made in the original audit report dated April 27th of 2017. Management is to be commended for their implementation of an online facility use system that has made the reservation system more efficient, and I'm quite sure our stakeholders appreciate not having to go from building to building to conduct their transaction. The original report contained 18 corrective action plans, and this follow-up report noted that 15 of them had been successfully implemented. 1 had been resolved through alternative means, and 2 remained open. One of the 2 that remained open only needs to have an approved administrative guideline, and then that will just leave 1 corrective action plan still open. The Office of Technology follow-up report focused on 8 corrective action plans that were prepared for recommendations rated as high risk in previous audits. As a result of the work performed, we found 3 of these corrective action plans were successfully implemented by management. We will continue to do additional follow-ups until either all the recommendations have either been corrected or some type of alternative means has been implemented to reduce the risk from high to something either low or moderate or hopefully closed. At a later date, as I said, the OIA will perform follow-up reviews to determine if the remaining open corrective action plans have been successfully implemented. Both of these reports will be on our district website. We're doing some construction, we're doing some updates to the website, and we're having a few little challenges as far as getting the reports out there. But if anyone wants the reports, they can always contact my office and we will get the reports to them. Mr. President, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Madam Internal Auditor. Colleagues, any additional comments? I just want to thank the administration for pursuing those corrective action plans. That's a great report. It really shows that the teams are working together to make significant progress. We appreciate your hard work, Internal Auditor. And if there's nothing else from or for the Office of Internal Audit, thank you very much. And let's move on to hear from our Treasurer. Mr. Treasurer, the floor is yours.
Pursuant to the agenda, I have no report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer.
You're more than welcome.
All right, colleagues, is there a motion that we accept the consent agenda as it's been presented?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All right. Questions, comments on any piece of legislation contained within the consent agenda this evening?
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
I would ask to separate out item 10.1 and vote on that separately.
Okay? Is that, Mr. Treasurer? Mr. Treasurer, would you?
I think our agenda says, and it could be board policy, that it's at the discretion of the chair hearing no objections, that you could somewhat unilaterally decide to do that. But you could have your pleasure to have it amended and pulled out by resolution. It's your choice.
Is there any
Whatever the pleasure
objection
of
to
the board
pulling,
is.
any objection to pulling that item out, and voting on it separately? Okay, very good. Shall we vote on it now, Mr. Treasurer?
I would do the consent agenda because that's the motion on the floor, and I would do 10.1, Mr. Brown?
Yes.
10.1 separately,
Very-
after this, directly
you.
after this.
Very good. Any other comments? Yes, Ms. Gibbs?
Just a point of clarification. So what is the policy? What is the governance tool we're going to use? Are we going to use Roberts where you have to put a motion on? Or are we simply saying that you can simply state and ask for it to be moved and off? I want us to consistently use the correct form of governance. If we use Robert's Rule of Order for everything else, then you would just simply say, I move to, but that is what is proper. So I don't want us to, in our informality, set a precedence of not following Robert's Rule. We're either going to follow it consistently or we're not, which simply just means I move to do it and it's seconded and we do it. But
Thank you.
Treasurer, you cited a different statute or a different recommendation of how it's done. Do we just simply say we want to pull it out? But I just as a matter of being consistent in governance, I just want to make sure if we follow Robert's Rule of Order for the entire meeting, then we do it.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. I do believe the treasurer may be preparing a response.
One
Mr.
item.
Treasurer, would you like to?
Yeah, if I could point something out, please.
Mr. Brown? Yes.
Every meeting that I've been to over the last 4 years, where the consent agenda appears on the agenda, it states, and you can see it right there on the screen, items may be removed from the consent agenda and voted on individually at the request of any board member. I've made that request.
I get that.
I don't think that it requires anything more than that.
I understand that, but we haven't followed that consistently. So I'm just asking if everyone is clear, because they're not always clear on what we're voting on. That's what we're going to use. And I'm okay if it is. I'm cool with it. But let's just be consistent. And if that's what we put it, that it's not in.
Mr. Treasurer, Dr. Roush?
You ready for us?
Yes,
Good.
Mr. Treasurer.
We're reading in policy 165.1 about the consent agenda, and the policy says, under section E, consent agenda, a member of the board may request any item be removed from the consent resolution by the majority vote of the board. So your policy says that, your agenda says this, your practice has been, I don't have a recollection of what your practice is typically.
Mr. Brown, may I ask you to just simply make a motion?
Fine.
Thank you. And your motion is that item 10.1 be pulled out and voted on
yes.
separately? Okay. And is there a second?
There's a second.
Mr. Ragland is seconding?
Second.
Yes, sir. All right. So, Mr. Treasurer, we'll call the roll on that item.
Okay. President Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Vice President Cole,
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs,
Yes.
Mr. Ragland,
Yes.
Ms. Reyes, and Ms. Adair. And that motion carried. So
Thank you.
10.1 has been pulled out of the consent agenda to be voted on separately.
Thank you. Back to our main motion. So, any comments, questions on any other piece of legislation contained within the consent agenda this evening, colleagues? Seeing none, Mr. Treasurer, would you call the
Okay,
roll?
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Vice President Cole,
On the consent agenda?
yes, as without 10.1.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Gibbs,
Yes.
Mr. Ragland,
Yes.
Ms. Reyes, Ms. Adair,
Yes, but I
And-
need to abstain from 16.1.
So noted. And President Baker,
Yes.
that motion carried.
Thank you. Now we have the item before us that we were just discussing, which will be assigned a new number. So is there discussion on the item that was formerly item 10.1? Is there discussion? Yes. Okay. Is there a motion that we approve what was item 10.1? Someone offer a motion that we accept what was formerly item 10.1. Moved and seconded. Okay. Discussion, comments, questions? Yes, Mr. Ragland.
Thank you, President Baker. I have significant concerns regarding item 10.1, the continuous use of public dollars to support board travel to professional development. I've also visited several schools and spoken with several parents and administrators as well as teachers. In my opinion, I do believe that it's an affront to the students of this district that we would continue to place their resources towards professional development for us as a board while we still have outstanding issues within their classrooms. We still have outstanding issues in our buildings. And coming back from a summer where many of these issues could have been taken care of, and seeing situations where they are not really hurts my heart. We walk into classrooms where our teachers have smart boards that aren't working at the beginning of the school year. We have several issues that have occurred within our buildings that I've understood have had work orders for several months that were not fixed while students were out. And to see again, after we've had these discussions around our priorities as a board, that we're continuing to place any amount of resources in another area when our students aren't getting the best that they deserve is something that we should really take a look at. In my mind, I have prioritized the one trip that we did take as a collective body along with our new superintendent as something that was under leadership and governance and something that we needed as a district in order for us to move forward. Following that, it appears to me that many of our priorities might be a bit misplaced this early in the school year. I also believe that each of us has an opportunity to raise our own money to pay for these types of professional development conferences, either through our own means or through partnerships that we have throughout the city that may be supportive. I have yet to see evidence that we have pursued those opportunities before going back to the public and asking them to provide more resources for this type of activity. That is the basis and the framework in which I would like to have this discussion, because I think we are capable. I would be willing to help with the fundraising effort for each of you to attend. But I just cannot allow another day where my daughter sweats in a classroom and we have issues with our buildings and we have smart boards that aren't working for students to go by and I would support trips for us to go and stay in comfort for professional development. Now, I am mindful that we have already approved professional development for this board as well as other district administrators and staff that occurs here in the state of Ohio. With our attendance at the Ohio School Board Association, we leverage those resources to allow for many administrators within this district to attend that conference that is located here in Columbus for free. Those types of opportunities are, in my opinion, the best use of public dollars, and I would hope that my colleagues would see things the same way. Thank you, President Baker.
Mr. Brown, did I see your hand? Yes.
Yes, thank you. As you have all heard from me ever since I started service on this board, I think that this board and many of its members have traveled far too extensively. And this is another example. I agree with everything that James had to say, and all of the reasons that he articulated so well. I'm in agreement with that. But I think that, and I do value professional development. And I think that the Harvard trip was a very good example of where we can strategically put that to use. I think that it's important for our administrators to engage in that. I think it's important for us as a board to do. But there are too many trips to conferences that don't serve those purposes. I think our priorities really need to be looked at carefully, and students always come first. I think that travel, this particular event will exceed $10,000 for 4 board members, and I think that spending this kind of taxpayer money for 2 of those folks that are not even going to continue as board members is a terrible idea. I think that it is and should be offensive to most taxpayers. That in 60 days after this particular trip, you'll be no longer members, and yet we'll have just paid out $5,000 for 2 of you. So I'm prepared to vote no, and I'm continue to be disappointed and surprised that these items continue, that in the face of all of the previous discussion, you persist. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, and seeing no other comments or questions? Oh, I beg your pardon. Board Member Adair.
Yes, thank you, President Baker. I think that Board Member Brown and Ragland do have some very good points. I personally believe in professional development, and I believe that we should only undertake professional development if it advances the strategic mission of this board. I believe that the conference in question is an organization, I know so, not believe, I know so, is an organization that we as a board have decided to become a member of, that partners with us and helps us meet our strategic mission. I understand that the superintendent is also planning on attending this conference as well. And so for this particular trip, I plan to vote yes because it meets the strategic mission. However, I hear what Board Member Brown and Ragland are saying. And that is why when we are looking at the policy in our policy review in my subcommittee, we are going to be seeing some additional parameters around how the board chooses to strategically move and select professional development opportunities. And I'm excited to bring those before my colleagues to discuss further. But I do hear the concern. And for those listening at home, understand that nobody wants to waste taxpayers' money. My daughter is also in a hot classroom. And it is very important that we do everything we can to put our children first. And sometimes that means that we need to become educated ourselves as your leaders. So that is my comments. Thank you.
Dare, thank you. Are there other, Board Member Gibbs?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you, Board Members Adair, Board Members Ragland and Brown for those comments. I do appreciate those. But I just want to make sure we're clear, and I echo your sentiments about if you are leading a learning organization, the learning can't stop with the leaders, and that we have to stay up to date and abreast. And for the record, the registration for the Council of Great City Schools is $175. And we budget in case if there's any overage, but this conference doesn't cost $5,000. It's $175. The fee for the president, who was on the board, and the superintendent is waived, and the hotel's only $200 a night. So the budget is to accommodate anybody's car breaking down, any emergencies, but by far, you're not spending $5,000 before we walk out the door. It's on the website, you could check it. But what's probably most important, I have a question as we talk about this. In your 4 years on the board, have you ever been to a Council of Great City School Conference? Or have you ever been to the Council of Great City School Conference?
Ms. Gibbs, I would ask that you direct your questions to the chair.
To the chair, how many members of the board has attended a Council of Great City School Conference? Please raise your hand. How many have attended a council? You've been to a Council of Great City Schools?
Conference? No, but I've worked with Council of Great City Schools.
But the question is, have you been and do you understand what happens? How many people have been to the Council of Urban Boards of Education? That specifically works with the boards of education of the largest districts in the country. Okay, so I can understand. I understand about resources, and I understand that. I got kids in hot schools. Matter of fact, there's a fan upstairs in the boardroom right now because the air might not be working. So our staff is working in some very difficult decisions. But to your point, I just don't want the conversation to go on that this is a trip. If you would have saw the notebook for Harvard and the pre-read, that was a 2-week commitment to get through all those case studies. The work, the policies, the innovation and reforms we brought back for our committees and for the district as a whole continue to be beneficial and invested. But everyone, you can talk about it, but the benefit to our entire district and to our leadership to continue learning is too important to let a soundbite override the overwhelming work that we still need to do. We are very happy with the work we got done. We still got more contracts to approve. We still got more designs to work out. Our innovation team is moving every day. And if you're not clear about our policies on today's student athlete, today's social media policies, today First Amendment rights, then we won't be ahead of the curve from a policy governance. Our policies on our agenda today don't match. That's why we go train. That's why we get professional development, so we can run a meeting properly. And we can understand the tasks that are ahead of us. So I appreciate all of your comments, because that is a student-focused idea. Board Member Ragland, Board Member Brown, I appreciate it. But our investment in leadership to empower our leaders is one of the best investments we can make. Thank you, President Baker.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. And I'll end that conversation by thanking Mr. Brown for raising a subcommittee of the Policy Review Committee chaired by Board Member Adair to study our travel policy. So thank you both for your leadership on that.
Continue. That subcommittee will be reporting back to the entire Policy Review Committee at its next meeting, and
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
We're going to continue to make progress.
Appreciate it. Thank you both. All right. Having had that robust conversation, Mr. Treasurer, would you care to call the roll on that?
Vice President Cole.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Can you restate the motion so we're clear on what we're voting on?
You're voting on item 10.1 as it was listed in the original agenda.
Approval to attend.
Yes, ma'am.
let me just get it up here real quick.
You don't have our names memorized by now?
Okay, 10.1, it's recommended that the Board of Education authorize the administration to approve the Council of Great City Schools professional development not to exceed a total of $10,363.40.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All set?
Yes, sir.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
No.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
No.
That motion carried.
Colleagues, I thank you for that discussion. And let's move on then to announcements. And I think, if I've got, Mr. Ragland. Mr. Ragland, yes, sir.
Thank you, President Baker.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yes, sir. So as we begin a new school year, we also begin our new fall athletics season. And I want to give a special shout out to those students as well as our staff and volunteers who have been participating in practices and two-a-days and other activities throughout the entire summer to prepare our Columbus City School students to go out and participate in fall athletics. It is more than a notion to have folks coming into our buildings throughout those hot summer days and doing the work that is necessary for our young people to compete. And they really do compete in our fall. And so kudos to all of you, and thank you for those dedicated adults that give of their time and talent and resources to do the things necessary to empower our young people. One contest in particular on Friday was of great interest to me. As many of you know, I am a Fort Hays graduate, but I was blessed to have an opportunity to play sports at my home school. And I want to take this time to especially thank Coach Paoletti, who back in those days when I was a junior in high school would come and pick me up from Fort Hays High School and carry me to Mifflin because Fort Hays dismissed at a later hour than Mifflin, and so I would miss a portion of practice, but Coach Paoletti was there, Johnny on the spot. Well, my Punchers played Columbus Walnut Ridge this Friday. As many of you also know, my son is a dear Walnut Ridge High School graduate. Yes, JC is a proud Scot, and so unfortunately, my Punchers did not come out on top of that contest. And as an obligation under which I am no distressed to give, I have a statement that was prepared for me that, President Baker, if you will allow me to read it into the record. Thank you, sir. As a member of the Columbus City Schools Board of Education, it is my duty to hereby honor, celebrate, and reverence the Walnut Ridge High School, its alumni, students, football team, staff, leadership, and volunteers, as well as the entire Walnut Ridge feeder pattern for exemplary performance on the gridiron, in the classroom, in the greater Columbus community, and the planet. May they continue to serve as a shining example of the best this district has to offer. 4841, Ridge Hype, and go Scots. Humbly submitted, James C. Ragland, member, Columbus Board of Education. My final statement is to my Punchers. I love you. I'm here with you. We will rise again. Thank you.
Up so people can see what you're wearing.
Yes, as a part of my penance, it is my duty to also wear the paraphernalia of the Walnut Ridge Scots Inn.
Well done. Bravo.
Thank you, President Baker. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, sir. Well done. Well done. Go Punchers.
Go Punchers.
Mr. Vice President, did you have something to offer?
Yes, sir. Thank you so very much. In the spirit of student athletics, I want to talk about a winning team this past Friday. In fact, two of them, for varsity and for JV, the Eastmoor EA Warriors. I want to definitely give a shout out to all of our coaching staff throughout the district who do an outstanding job of committing themselves in what we call the dog days of summer to make sure that our young men who get in front of them become men, not just by playing a sport on the football field, but also exercising those tenets that they learn and those principles in their everyday life as students and as people. And I'm not just speaking of our boys too, I'm also speaking of our girls. My daughter is a CNIS student who plays volleyball and works hard with her team to try and bring home victory as well. So I just want to applaud all of our coaching staff who dedicate themselves to this program, but specifically Coach Miranda, Moody, Edwards, and Earl. Secondly, I want to, on Grandparents' Day, acknowledge an outstanding program in the district that I actually, in the county that I have personal experience with, and that is the Franklin County Foster Grandparents Program. They do an outstanding job of. Okay, all right. Well, thank you. Thank you for Catholic Social Services as well for continuing the work of that program. But with that stated, they participate in many schools throughout the district, most particularly Windsor STEM. I had the opportunity to engage several grandparents who commit their time, and they do an outstanding job. Under the same circumstances, many of our children and students attend high school and warm legacy buildings this time of year. So I just wanted to thank them. In addition to that, in my trip to both Ames. Yes, sir. Ma'am.
Just wanted to add.
Yes, ma'am.
It is a paid position for any grandparent that's out there that's looking for a supplemental income. It does not impact your current output, whether it's your pensions or security, does not impact that. You too can be a foster grandparent in Columbus City Schools by contacting Catholic Social Services. So I just want to make sure that people knew that. And you get paid for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No worries. In addition to my travel to Ames and STEM today, I had the opportunity at STEM to see an awesome marriage of programs and community partners come together in a very targeted way, in a way that I think is something from an equity standpoint, something that we can actually try to modify and spread throughout the district. Using our mentoring program, any number of connections that we can make. I would love to see moving forward some sort of report on next steps in not only seeing continued success at Windsor STEM with this kind of collaborative engagement effort that targets children, their traumas, their situations, and seeks to address them in a very layered way with specific partners at play. I'd love to see how we look at, from an equitable standpoint, Madam Superintendent, expanding this opportunity, school for school, building for building. But so thank you for today, and I definitely enjoyed my time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. Board Member Adair?
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to the schools that I visited on the first day. Of course, I went to my daughter's school, but I also had the great opportunity to go to Eastgate, which is my mom's school. And but while I was there, I was very inspired by the PEAK program and all the cool things that they are doing there at Eastgate. And so that's just a new and different approach to discipline. It's not the old school PEAK like maybe some of us remember, but they had things in there to really help the kids, such as a trampoline and art and coffee, or not coffee, hot chocolate, art and hot chocolate, but different ways that students can come in and just take a break. And in fact, that's what they're going to call it, the break room. And I just thought that was a really unique way of really helping our students kind of readjust to get back. I also got to see the, I forget what they call it, the quiet room. It's upstairs and it's got bubbles. It was amazing. It looked really calming, and I asked her if any staff go in there. She said sometimes. And so I want to give a shout out to our wellness program, because I know that we all got an email for the wellness, and it's important that our staff also take care of themselves and make sure they're taking advantage of all of the great wellness benefits that we are providing. I didn't know that we were going to do pictures. Next time I'll bring one of mine. But I want to give a shout out to my Centennial Stars, who did not quite pull it out against Grandview, but they were on TV, so that was really exciting. And shout out to my friend and head coach Dante Gooseby, who brought back a tradition called Meet the Stars Night, which is something we did, and he brought it back and honored two coaches who were really instrumental in the program, who combined had a total of something like 65 plus years of coaching experience. And it was just a really cool event to bring back. I have promised my old cheerleading friends that I will be out there at the alumni, at homecoming, as an alumni cheerleader. I'm gonna have a shirt and everything. So I'll be sure to share pictures. And the last thing, I know I'm going to give a shout out to all the band members out there, because I was also in the band. And I know that I saw some really cool stuff on Facebook, so I love all the social media. Shout out to our own internal communications team, because we've been doing lots of videos. And if you're not following us, you are missing out. You need to follow us on Facebook and Twitter and social media. But anyway, I saw one of at Whetstone, they did a really cool, where they marched down the hall with their marching band to get everyone pepped up. But our Centennial Stars are actually in a battle of the bands with Upper Arlington and Hilliard Derby. And so they're going to be featured at NBC4, who's also a great partner. And if they get enough votes, I don't know all about this, so you can look it up on Facebook. If they get enough votes, they're going to be on a halftime show. That's all I know. So go vote is what's the most important thing, because we want our CCS students to be highlighted, and we want to definitely beat Upper Arlington and Hilliard. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Adair, thank you. Wait, all right. Here we go.
Let's keep going down.
Mr. Treasurer?
Yes.
No.
Did you mention the band marching in the hall is a new item?
No.
Okay,
it's a
thank
great
you.
tradition, is
I was
what
going
I
to say,
said.
because that's been going on
Yes, it's a great tradition.
Mr.
50
Treasurer, what year did you?
well, how long's it been open?
When it was established?
Yeah. The question is, did they keep them in the building?
The video was only in the hallway, so I don't know.
Because we typically didn't.
Speaking of peak, too old for peak. All right, yes, let's see. Let's see here. Ms. Gibbs.
Yes. Thank you. So we had an amazing opening to school. Kudos, Dr. Dixon, you are not at all giving yourself as much props for the convocation. To this entire team, that convocation rocked. That convocation rocked. On the left is Dr. Achille Brown, so Ms. Gillison, Judy Wright, everybody, whoever put this together, it was all the buzz for the rest of the week. And we take our lumps, we talk about what was good and what wasn't, but when we hit it out the park, we have to acknowledge it, and we have to celebrate. So this was just a random, everybody ended up at the same place to eat. So let's take a picture. But Dr. Brown on the left was amazing. And from the classroom to our custodians, to safety and security, to everyone that was in that room, no one left uninspired. And they told us that everywhere we went. And so glad, so amazed, absolutely amazing. Congratulations on a great convocation. So on my first day of school, I had a chance to go to several buildings, right? And to meet some of our amazing staff and people who really helped us get started and kind of all over the city. So some of my favorite people I got to see at South Mifflin. They have a big sign that says we're moving. We moved out of focus to priority, or whatever their status was, they moved out, and they are a 5-star winner, so they are fully accredited. They were amazing. I got to see Ridgeview on the first day with Miss Natalie James, and Dr. Harris was there on the first day, getting it in. The amazing Linda McKinley. Right after y'all did the rah, 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 it was almost quiet. You just didn't hear a pin drop, but they were doing great work over there. And then the Fairwood Elementary, right on the east side. They are part of the South High feeder pattern, and Mr. Davis was there getting it in. Who doesn't love the East High team, right? They were there, and I had to go see my nephew because him and that, yeah. But he got to class on time after Auntie showed up. And Northland, and some incredible people there, in Berwick on the first day of that kindergarten class. So I had a chance to see a lot of amazing administrators. Just their preparation, their buildings, the hallways, everything was just so welcoming for all of our students. And of course, CCPSG, one of the administrators asked where I went to middle school, and I said Franklin Alternative Middle School, and that is now Columbus City Preparatory School for Girls. That was an amazing program with the young ladies. The young lady on the bottom, she works in Elizabeth Brown's office, and she is an intern that helped on this project and helped shape it. So just really happy. Those are my congratulatory remarks and just some of the reflections of the great back to school. The people, the energy, the kids, the bus drivers, safety and security, like everybody is moving in a unit, and you can't help but be inspired when you are a part of this school and that program. Now, that's not mine. Who is that?
Board Member Reyes.
That's me.
You are next.
Great, thank you. So I am going bike riding, motorcycle riding. I joined the New Salem Biker Ministry. This is the third year that we've been doing this. Members of our community, superintendents from other schools, retired principals, retired custodians, bus drivers, about anywhere from 25 to 30 riders. We ride to as many high schools as we can, and Mr. Ragland, Mifflin was our first stop. We started here at the board office, and we join in prayer, and that's my bike right there in the front. That's my that black bike's mine. And we join in prayer, praying for all of our students, our administrators, for a great, safe school year. So again, this is our third year doing it. If you want to join us next year, it is a lot of high schools. It's a lot of traveling. We weren't able to make all of them, but I guarantee you we prayed for all of them. It was wonderful seeing our students see us, adults, being there for them. We had a former alumni who had just graduated last year, who joined her grandfather. We had riders as young as her, who was she was just 19, and as old as 80 years old riding with us. So it was kind of exciting. The other point of pride that I want to just talk about, or actually an announcement, for those that are interested in English language learners, we're doing an ELL listening tour. Our first one will be September 14th at Northland High School. The second one will be October 5th at Johnson Park. And our third one will be at Wedgwood, I don't have a date yet. October 19th. And I hope that after I attend the Council of Great City Schools program on bilingual education programs, I'll be able to bring in a couple more information for our Public Engagement Committee. So I wanted to make sure we reported that. And just another thank you to all those people who donated backpacks. We had a couple folks donate backpacks to the community center I work at. We gave out 100 backpacks to our kids on the 28th, along with the big table. I also want to thank any and all who participated all throughout Columbus with the big table, with the Columbus Foundation. I saw a lot of pictures of our community just engaging not only our students here for the ones that we put together, but there was big tables on helping our males of color, helping our Latino males, helping our Latina females, and very specific to a lot of working with our children. So I want to thank all those organizations, all those churches, all those community groups that really took the time to focus on the issues that are facing our kids today.
Member Reyes. So, a couple more photos. This is Convocation Day. So we did all right over there on a bus together. We had a great time on the bus. Our driver's name was Janet. She was awesome. I hope we didn't get her into too much trouble. We did have a whole lot of fun that day. There we are. So you see Board Member Ragland, Board Member Adair, and some of the team. Just, I hadn't been on a yellow bus for a while, but had a great time. Now, there we are. That's the venue. So we're up in a room on the second level and looking down. All these chairs were filled. This was an amazing thing. Like I've never seen anything like this. The district hasn't done one of these for 18 years. This was just amazing. So kudos to everybody. First day of school, there we are. What was it, 6 o'clock? It was amazing. There we are with lots of leaders. We have President Carson, President Caniglio, the principal. Just an awesome day. Vice President as well, and of course the superintendent. Boy, did we have a lot of fun. So these students are amazing. You all know that. Staff amazing. Parents just incredibly excited. Here we are. Was this Salem Elementary? Yeah. Yeah, had a great time. Of course, we had city partners there as well. I saw Interim Director Smido, mayor's there, of course, and here we are. So on the far left, I forget her name, from Channel 4. Amazing partners, Channel 4, and the one standing right next to her, we've also got State Rep there. I can't say enough about everything Channel 4 has done for this district. They are an amazing partner, not just the backpacks, but all of the positive publicity, telling the good story of the district. Absolutely amazing. East Linden, yes, I'm sorry. So I wish we had more like Channel 4. There we are. We clapped them in. It poured. Oh, man, I thought we were going to build an ark that day. It poured so hard, so we just moved right inside. They weren't phased at all. There we are before the deluge began. Tie-tying ceremony at the boys' school. Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's an awesome event. There's Board Member Reyes. Big table. So this was our big table event. Thanks to the Columbus Foundation for helping to make that a successful event, sponsoring those all across the city. Some great conversations there. Board Member Ragland and Vice President Cole and Ms. Gibbs, engaging the community with our new Chief of Engagement, Alicia Gillison. There she is, leading the whole thing, as she always does, did an amazing job. So, any other announcements, points of pride, colleagues? Board Member Gibbs?
Yes, Reach Higher event is coming up on Friday, September 20th. Dr. Dixon, can someone speak to this and tell us all about it? Yes.
Alicia is going to come up.
Ms. Gillison.
Good evening, President Baker, to Board Member Gibbs. The Reach Higher event is an event that started as an initiative with former First Lady Michelle Obama, and it is an initiative to work with and inspire our young people to reach higher. If you're going to college, then let's get the college applications filled out. Let's get the scholarship applications filled out. If you want to go into the military, then go ahead and talk to a recruiter. If you want to go into business, let's talk about some credentialing opportunities. Whatever it is, it's time to reach higher. And this year, this Reach Higher event would not have been possible without our partners from the city, the mayor, Mayor Ginther, Matt Smidle. They wrote a grant, and the grant is affording us this opportunity, so we're going to have every one of our seniors back at the convention center, right? And we have some amazing speakers, our partners with I Know I Can. We have Javier, our superintendent, Dr. Dixon, Mayor Ginther, and Leslie Turner, who is a graduate from Eastmore Academy, and she is now at Harvard Med School, EA. But amazing event, and in partnership with the city and I Know I Can. Really, really looking forward to that, and that's September the 20th.
Completion.
Yes, our FAFSA completion, our superintendent has set the goal of 100% FAFSA completion for our young people, because FAFSA completion is a gateway. Every year there are billions and billions of dollars going unclaimed, and students feeling like they cannot go to college, parents not wanting to go in debt, and all we have to do is start with completing a FAFSA. So that is the goal, and that's part of reaching higher.
Thank you, Ms. Gillison. Thank you very much. Ms. Gibbs?
Thank you very much for Reach Higher, bringing it back. Our partners, the City of Columbus, let us say thank you for partnering with us in education to do that. I Know I Can has been a 30-year plus sponsor and partner with Columbus City Schools. You know, we appreciate them. We appreciate everything that they do with us. And most importantly, seniors, you are right here. It's time for you to get right across that finish line. And I'm glad you have that aggressive goal, because you have team members in the community. Once you said, it's like when you watch Akilah in the Bee, and they say you have 5,000 coaches, right? When her coach said, you know, I can't coach you anymore. You know, her mom said, look, you have 5,000 coaches. So we have an entire city of teammates that's going to help us get to that 100% FAFSA. So we need to put that in the church announcements. Did you do your FAFSA? We have to put it in the corner store, on the COTA bus, everywhere. You know,
6 area superintendents who are going to be leading
Yes.
and making sure that each of those regions reach their 100%. So I'm really excited about them chipping in and working in partnership with I Know I Can and those other organizations. So thank you to the area superintendents for your efforts in leading this, Dr. Chapman's team. But yeah, it's a partnership, and it's all of us working together with the same goal. And we have the support of I Know I Can. I mean, we have their support, the college and the city. So we're excited to get there and to reach that 100%. Are we area superintendents? I know they're all there. Raise your hand again so the crowd can see you guys.
Good.
Love it, love it.
Congratulations. Let me just say one word about your speaker, who grew up in Brittany around the corner from me. She went to Eastmore Academy. She is a Gates Millennium and a Ron McNair Scholar. She graduated from Duke University, where she pledged Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. She is at the H.P. T.T. Chan School of Medicine at Harvard University, all by sheer will, determination, and motivation, and the support of her principal, her team, Eastmore Academy, but the entire community. And so we have students, and to Dr. Stanford's point, we are on innovation and reform. Let me just say this. We have a student representative, and her name was Sarah Speller. She is on her way to Oxford, England. She is a graduate of Mifflin High School, did her undergrad at Yale, and she is on her way to Oxford, England this fall to study and get her master's and PhD. That is Columbus City Schools. And that is what we produce when we put our mind to it. So I'm just happy and proud for any and everybody that is on this team. Thank you, President Baker.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. Yes, Board Member Adair.
In all of my excitement, I forgot to shout out to the teachers, because you guys spent so much time getting your rooms together, making it amazing. And because of that, you guys get honored. And so I want to give another shout out for Jennifer Laplace, who's a social studies teacher at Centennial High School, who won a really prestigious award. And I want to make sure that's mentioned, because we have excellent teachers in our district who deserve more praise than just an award every day. So thank you all for, being amazing. And I also want to shout out to all of our PTAs, because I know all the work you do. I know I was there at the ice cream socials. I saw you passing out ice cream on that hot day. So thank you to all the parents and all the community members who came out. And make sure that if you don't know if your school has a PTA, give them a call, and I'm sure that they can connect you with your organization. So I'm sorry, I forgot that. I just got so excited, but I wanted to make sure that our teachers were recognized and our PTAs.
Thank you very much. Any other announcements? Anything else for the good of the order this evening? Interim Director Smito, have you anything to offer the board this evening? Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Mr. Vice President, have you a motion to offer?
Yes, I move that the Board of Education recess into executive session per Section 121.22G1 Ohio Revised Code to consider the appointment, employment, or compensation of public employees, and Section 121.22G4 of the Ohio Revised Code to prepare for, conduct, or review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment. Mr. President.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer, would you mind calling the roll for us?
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you. The board will now recess into executive session. We shall adjourn from those chambers without returning to these. Have a good evening.